When you hear the word heist, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Masked figures, maybe? Laser beams guarding some priceless jewel? Well, today we're going to look at two heists that will completely flip that script. One is your classic smash and grab, but the other? It's a theft so huge and so quiet, it pretty much happened in broad daylight.
So let's just ask it straight up. What is the biggest heist in history? Are we talking about some stolen masterpiece, a legendary bank robbery? You know, the answer really isn't that simple, because it all comes down to how you define a heist in the first place.
So we're unpacking two totally different stories today. On one hand, you've got a crime that's straight out of a Hollywood movie, a brute force break-in at one of the most famous museums in the world. And on the other hand, something a lot sneakier, the quiet disappearance of billions of dollars that were supposed to rebuild an entire country.
Okay, let's dive into our first section, the stolen treasure. So, what was actually taken? In these two wildly different heists, the loot itself really tells half the story.
In the Paris heist, the target was exactly what you'd imagine, priceless jewels. We're talking about artifacts of inestimable value. You know, things that are so unique, once they're gone, poof, they're gone forever. Now for our second case. The target here wasn't some one-of-a-kind jewel. Nope. It was cold, hard cash. And get this, a staggering $6.6 billion. This was money that was flown into Iraq for reconstruction projects, and then, somewhere along the way, it just vanished. And right there, that's the crucial difference. On one side, you have a tangible treasure, something you can literally hold in your hand. But on the other, you have this abstract fortune that's so enormous, it's kind of hard to even picture. This wasn't someone grabbing a briefcase of money. It was like an entire river of cash just evaporated. So, Section 2, how it was done. How did they actually pull these off? Well, as you might expect, the methods for these two heists couldn't be more different. The Louvre heist was just old-school brute force, a physical break-in. Thieves smashed their way in, grabbed the jewels, and made a run for it. They were even sloppy enough to leave their tools behind. I mean, it's the classic criminal playbook, right? But see, there was no break-in for the missing billions in Iraq. This money was officially airlifted on C-130 cargo planes, literally packed onto pallets in shrink-wrapped bricks of cash. It was then delivered into a system that the Special Inspector General himself called loose and unregulated. The money wasn't stolen from a vault. It just vanished within the system.
All right, Section 3, the unsolved mystery. Let's talk about the aftermath. In both of these cases, something of immense value was gone. But the hunt for answers, it went down two completely different paths.
And listen, you don't have to take my word for it. Stuart Bowen, the Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction, did not mince words. He called the situation potentially the largest theft of funds in national history. So this wasn't some sloppy accounting error. This was theft on an absolutely unprecedented scale.
The investigations themselves could not have been more different. The Louvre heist left a physical crime scene, footprints, tools, a clear trail for the police to follow. But in Iraq, there was no crime scene. The trail of the missing billions just disappeared into a bureaucratic maze of audits, reports, and years of officials just pointing fingers at each other.
Years after the money went missing, this was the official line from the Pentagon. The response to $6.6 billion disappearing wasn't a manhunt. It was a promise to, maybe one day track down the paperwork. It just shows a staggering lack of immediate accountability.
So that brings us to Section 4, what it all means. What's a big takeaway here? What do these two completely different stories really tell us when we put them next to each other?
Well, it means we have to expand our definition of a heist. It's not just about a physical, forceful act. An equally audacious and you could argue far more damaging heist can be the quiet exploitation of a broken, unregulated system. A system where accountability almost seems designed to fail. Which really leaves us with one final tricky question. We build these incredible fortresses, like the Louvre, to protect a single priceless object. But how do you protect billions in cash that's flowing through a complex, chaotic system? So what's truly easier to steal? And maybe more importantly, what's harder to protect? The answer, I think, reveals a whole lot about what we value and how we so often fail to secure it.